to all, or welcome once again to Global Networking G100. Today we are going to have another event, once again about what means discussion, talking, exchange, connect through a book, a wonderful book. And it's the second time that we have lovely Enolia Foti, this powerful woman that is based in Angola. She's an international speaker, author, coach, social entrepreneur, author of the book Finding My Sovereign Voice with my grandmother's elder and journal. Besides, she is our G100 Global Networking Chair for Angola. There is no better way to present someone than using their own words. And that's what Enolia say. I help entrepreneurs, global influencers, and high-profile leaders transform their lives, unleash their full potential without risking professional image or legacies by conscious transformation and soul activation coaching. You see, just to see that, we have very high expectations with Enolia and her book. And it's truly a very inspiring book. And I will take, if Enolia allow me to do that, that's a page when you take small steps of a journey of evolution, of our evolution of ourselves. But I will make a parallel and see the evolution of our win, G100 Global Networking, through that book. And I have taken 4 aspects: flow align, source connection, expansion expressed, and new beginnings. Because flow align, global networking is about that. It's about flowing with the inner peace of each of us, growing by giving without asking. This solidarity, this generosity is the basis of our group, G100. Source connection. We are having the same technological resources, the same virtual platform, but connecting to each other, related to each other in an innovative way, in a way that is all based in solidarity. And sadly, that is innovative. Expansion expressed is not enough if we expand our chapters all around the world if it's not by a meaning, the meaning of growth individually, but growing by connecting with others, but supporting others is the only way that we accept building resilience by supporting others. And finally, new beginnings. Yes, begin again and again. And don't feel frustrated. Without frustration, we need to push that button that say start again. Without frustration that you have to do it again, with joy, with positivity, with enthusiasm. That's the way we do it. And today we are going to do that. I'm going to push that button and say, let's start. Let's start with a new event, but a very old shape of searching for enlightenment, of wisdom, of love, that only a book that have written with the heart may deliver. Thank you so much, Enolia, for being here with us.
I don't even know how to respond to such a beautiful, beautiful, warm, open arm, heartfelt introduction like that. And, you know, for those of you who don't know, Mara was quoting out of the poem that opens up the book. And I call it Evolution. And I want you to know that that was totally source, that came from source, because I woke up at like 2 a.m. and those words were flowing through my head. And the first thing I did was immediately write them down without hesitation, without thinking, and without understanding or knowing that they were defining a journey, and that journey was my journey. And so I was thrilled to be able to capture that and to have that as the opening. So thank you so much. And I'm excited to be here, and I'm so grateful for all of you.
We are not only grateful with you, Enolia, also we are grateful with Jennifer Juvenel that is here from Mexico. Jennifer, please introduce yourself. You are very welcome.
Hi, thank you. It's wonderful to be here. My name is Jennifer Juvenel. I am an author as well of the recently released psychological thriller Daughter of Belial, and I'm a trauma survivor and inspirational speaker.
This is so amazing and so aligned with all the thoughts that are on Enolia book. Chas Wesley is another of our lovely invited to this discussion panel of this book. Chas, what is your relation with Enolia, and what is your relation with your sovereign voice?
Oh, thank you again for having me. I am so excited about today's topic because Enolia and I have been talking for just over a year, and she's mentioned her book to me 100 times, finally sent it to me. And when I read it with awe, I read it with tears, I read it with that wisdom that you talked about. And today I'm just honored to be here. My experience, my background is I too am an author, and I am in private practice as a grief counselor and transformational coach and inspirational speaker. And some of the things that Enolia mentions in her book and she mentions in life all connect with that thing about transformation. So I'm excited to be here and talk about that today.
Thank you so much, Chas. As you know, this is G100 Global Networking. Enolia Foti is our global networking G100 from Angola. So the focus that we wanted to do is in relation to what means community, what means virtual platform, what means finding your sovereign voice in a hostile world that represents technology and represents the virtual platform. How we do that, Enolia, how we work in communities and without losing our hearts.
So, I love community. I love community. And I remember being much younger and I was watching this movie. I was watching 10,000 BC. And there was a part in 10,000 BC where the uncle is trying to share with his nephew why his father went away from him. And one thing that struck me so much in that is that he said some people cast their net and their community is their immediate family. And then others cast their net and it's their extended family or their town or their state. And then others cast their net and it is worldwide. And my net has been cast worldwide. My community is the world. My community are the beautiful people that I've met from Mexico, from US, from Australia, from India, from Africa, from all over the world. And it warms my heart because in sharing my story, it's my hope to touch the hearts from all over the world. And no matter how wide you cast your net, no matter how small or how large it is, it's our community and we impact it and what we say counts. So, yes.
Jennifer, Chas, please feel free to make your comments, to ask questions, to tell about your story. You're very welcome to do so. Please, Chas, go ahead.
Well, I want to jump into something that struck me in the moment I began to read Enolia's book, but also after conversations and podcasts that the two of us have done together. And that is something she calls the art of noticing, the act of noticing. And Enolia knows me. My background is a little bit of Buddhism, a little bit of Christianity, a little bit of woo-woo. So the understanding of art, the art of noticing, is a huge thing as we began this journey together today, but also any journey. And when Enolia was talking about community just now, I was thinking about that very thing, the art of noticing our community. And when we take that word alone, we understand that it is a common unity, much like when we would receive or give communion, there is a common union. And so I understand and appreciate what she just said, because this community where we're casting our nets, wherever and however big that is a thing to notice. Who is in our community and how are we supported by that community and how do we give back? So thanks for letting me mention that.
Jennifer.
Yes. The thing that I was most struck by in the book, I think one of the things is your raw vulnerability that you shared with the issues that came up around your ego and how you received lessons around that and hard lessons. And I wanted to ask you to share some wisdom that you've gained from those lessons, and also how to ask you, how does that still show up for you today, and how do you navigate, and what are those lessons like then from now? Because I think so many of us, myself included, struggle with our ego getting in the way and confusing it with guidance and wisdom. And I'd love to hear your wisdom on that.
Wow. That was a huge lesson learned, understanding my vulnerabilities, understanding how to put my ego in check. So when you are groomed in corporate, it is all about, how best to say it is all about being territorial, getting yourself on that stage, getting yourself noticed, getting yourself to be front and center, assuming the role and taking the opportunity, taking it, like you're entitled to it, taking that opportunity and saying, it's mine, I got it, I'm fulfilling it. And so you have no choice but to give it to me because I took it. And that's how we're groomed. That's how we're taught. And so when I went to an Indigenous retreat and went with those attitudes and saw that they didn't serve me and how much they didn't serve me, I could not get away with anything. I inserted my foot in my mouth every single time I made a move. It was like, no. And I had to step back and say, what am I doing? And why am I doing it? And I had to look around and acknowledge my surroundings and acknowledge that my ego isn't supposed to be leading here. My ego isn't welcomed here. And so if I want to learn and glean and expand my view, that I had to put like my ego behind in the back. It could not lead me because it was not serving me. So that was the first major lesson that I learned. The second lesson that I learned that was significant was that when someone else is putting you in place, they can do it compassionately without belittling you, without demoralizing you or making you feel small. That they could stand with you side by side and still acknowledge you for all of the strengths that you bring, but still let you know, no, that particular way, that's not our way. And that was huge. So that was like a significant second. And then third lesson, I'll just leave it to three because many, many lessons. But the third one was that I noticed how much I beat myself up for having made the mistake. And how I really needed to step back and say, it was okay and there are room for mistakes here. Because in a corporate environment, your mistakes are thrown in your face sometimes, and you're reminded that you did it, and you're reminded that that's why you're not where you were supposed to be because you made that mistake. We've all experienced it. I'm not singling out or making the corporate culture out to be terrible. It's just the natural state of competitiveness and how we were taught to compete with one another. And so learning all of that and understanding that I didn't have to be this strong patriarchal side of myself in order to bloom, to prosper, to lead, to feel something to my fellow peers serves me every single day of my life. And I practice that. I realize that. I sit back and I can notice what's taking place. I don't have to come in like a bull in a china closet to get my point across, that my voice has power. And in order for it to have power, it doesn't have to be forcefully inserted. All these things make up so much of how you conduct your life. And in understanding that you can conduct your life in another way, that leaves room for growth and expansion and acknowledgement and love of just where I want to be, how I want to be, no matter what I want to be. I can stand in my authentic self. I think that that's the best way to summarize that.
Beautiful, Enolia. And you're in the chapter "The Retreat." They caught my attention. One of your sentences that say it's all about choices. Most of us have encountered someone who chooses to take out their bad day on us.
Mm.
You address one of the most troublesome aspects of how to deal with that every day of our life that sometimes remove our inner peace. But you say this is about choices. So they don't have any impact on us. That's the question. Do you think that, Jennifer, Chas, what do you think? It's possible that they don't have any impact on us. It's just a choice if we want it to be positive or not. Chas, please.
I love to talk about choice. I always think of choice as a level of consciousness, and it's one of the highest levels of consciousness in my world to understand that we have choice in everything that we say, do, believe, all of that. And you're right, whenever we are projecting that into the world, then it's not just our choice, it is affecting other energy pieces. And Enolia talks a lot in her book about energy. And it's not necessarily what we've said or what we've done, but the energy behind it. And that energy lives on. It doesn't stop. I think about Buddhist prayer flags when I think of energy. Mm-hmm. And when we blow into the air our prayer, and whether we see that flag move or we just know that the wind is carrying it, it doesn't end. It keeps going. There is this energetic vibration that continues. And that, in my opinion, is the understanding of choice. Whenever we make a choice, that energy is alive and it continues into the next realm, whether we're present or not. It's a big thing.
Powerful, Chas. It's powerful. Jennifer, what do you think about that? How do you deal with that in your daily life?
This is a topic that I am highly focused on at the moment, actually, of how do we overcome our environment, because there are so many stressors and triggers, and realizing that, as Chaz said, there is always a choice. And I love the component that you added to it, Chaz, that it's a level of consciousness, because when we're in that mode of being activated or triggered from our environment and reacting immediately, we very quickly bypass the choice to where it may not seem like you have one. But if we can pause and take Enolia's advice on noticing, then you realize that there's space to decide which way do you desire to go. And it really is about becoming very in tune with yourself so that you can cultivate that ability to pause before you are overcome with your emotions and become the quantum observer, observing yourself. And that gives you the distance. So when something in your environment or somebody is taking their bad day out on you, it becomes especially important to be able to pause and notice and decide, okay, is this something I need to go into and create drama around, or is there another choice available to me? And adding that to your toolkit.
Beautiful, Jennifer. Enolia, as Jennifer say, emotions or just that say the energy behind us. Do we have choices with our emotions? Do we have choices with the energy that is behind that? Is it possible, Enolia?
I believe it absolutely is. And an analogy that I always make it akin to, it's like walking barefoot, right? So when you're walking barefoot and you know that every step that you could take, there's possible potential of pain, there's possible potential of rocks that you step on, cutting your foot and everything, you are conscious of every step that you take. Well, I like to make that akin to our choices. When you are aware and you notice within, then you understand that you've come to a decision point. And when you are conscious, then you have a choice of going right or left or up or down. And then, like your shoes being off, you make a conscious choice of which decision you want to make. I remember the particular excerpt that you're talking about when someone takes their bad day. I ran into a woman who was having a bad day, and she thought that we came too close to her car. I was with my ex-husband at the time, and she wanted to tell us off. So she proceeded in telling us off. And I remember making a conscious choice while getting out of the car to work with this woman. I'm not going to say deal with her or confront her, but to work with this woman. I made a conscious choice that I was not going to let her take me to the level that she was at. And so if we've ever looked at anything, love has conquered anything that has been negative. Love has always conquered anything. You might have had to be diligent with it. You might have expressed love for years and years and years. But negativity does not overcome negativity. It's the love that overcomes negativity. So I remember confronting her saying, if there was anything I would do that would mess up your car, don't worry, I would take the responsibility of doing it. And I said it like 3 times before she heard me. But when she heard me, she realized I wasn't even coming at her. I was just telling her, okay, I'll take responsibility. And when she heard me, she threw all of that back in and then actually came back later to apologize. And it was like, don't worry, I understand that you had a hard day. I just hope you have a better one. You know, we have to let it go. We don't have to give away our power by taking on somebody else's projection and making it ours. We have to acknowledge that they're going through something, and we can hold space for them until they realize we're not the enemy. We're not the one coming to attack them, but we're there to have a conversation and hopefully make their day better, because when you enter my space, I don't want drama. I want you to feel better. And so it's my hope that when we engage, that you come out better on the other side.
Wonderful, Enolia. I will read the questions that are fantastic from this book. You know that I am a fan of you and your book. They say, do you really know until you listen? Have you missed the truth character of a person because you assume you would not have anything in common with them? Do you ever judge a book by its cover?
I love that, because I think that we have to learn how to unlearn, because that's what we've been taught. That's what we've been told as we were little girls, you know, don't judge a book by its cover, but oh, look at what she's wearing, or oh, look at what he's doing, or blah, 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 blah. But the key is that, and just at that moment when I encountered that woman that was having a bad day, I had to step back and not react to her, but to notice and make that my practice. But that's what leads me. That's what's in the forefront of saying, okay, what's going on with her? She's having a bad day because she's yelling. Okay, am I going to add to her bad day or not? And even having that conversation as I was getting out of the car to respond to her, I had already assumed and I had already decided that I was not going to add to it, that I was not going to react to whatever she said, no matter how nasty or how horrible it was. I had made a choice. And that has been practiced my whole life. I had to practice. And this book is how I got to be able to respond in this way. This is the journey that I went through to learn how to be able to think and understand that I have a choice at every decision before I respond.
Wonderful, Enolia. Jennifer Chas, have you ever judged a book for the cover? Have you ever judged someone because of their way they are dressing or because their attitude? Do you judge? I do it. I confess. Public. I do it. Chas, please.
I have bookshelves full of books that I've judged by their covers. And some of them I have read because I thought they looked pretty, and some of them I have not read. And it's interesting, in the moment that we make that judgment, we are actually understanding our attachments. When we are in the act or the art of noticing, what we're doing is noticing without attachment. It's a very neutral place to be. We are just the observer. But when that judgment comes in, we have an attachment, and that attachment is created somewhere along our belief system up until today. And we are attached to a lot of things. And you used a word earlier, the word assume. When we make assumptions about something, then we are assuming based on that old belief system that we have. And sometimes we're assuming that you should know I'm right about this topic. You should know that whatever that fill in the blank is for you. And the assumption and the judgment is a big thing in all of this. So I absolutely take responsibility for the books that I have picked up based on their cover. And I also have a choice as we go back and make this full circle of keeping that book, giving it away, selling it, getting rid of it, whatever that is. So choice always comes back around.
Yeah. Thank you. Jennifer?
Oh, yes. I take responsibility as well. Judgment is, I think we grow up with it. You know, it's one of those things that we're conditioned through our families who have also been conditioned in our society. You know, all you have to do is turn on the television to see people spouting judgments all over the place. And so it's something that actually is very socially acceptable in a way. And so therefore it's reinforced. And I notice that when I step into judgment, there is a strong emotional component, and there's also this game that we begin to play of the hierarchy game of I begin to either place myself above or below someone. And as soon as I notice myself doing that, I have to remind myself that we are all spirit having a physical experience, and we're on our own journey, and we're all at different levels of consciousness. And so I think it really becomes about stepping into a place of allowance, of having that neutrality and allowing other people to be as they are. And then really it always comes back to the self, of allowing yourself to be as you are and nurturing yourself in that moment and saying, you know, okay, here I am in judgment. What aspects of myself do I judge harshly? What aspects of myself, you know, maybe am I afraid of becoming like that person? Is that why I'm judging them so harshly? And I think when we start to point the finger back inward in a loving way, it takes the edge off of that judgment. And I think we saw that in Enolia's book as well. When you described going to the 13 Grandmothers Summit, at the Omega Institute in the very beginning, and the little tactics that you had, and then you said a judgment and then had that come boomerang right back at you. It's such beautiful lessons that you have had in your life, Enolia, and being guided, like direct lessons. And I think I really would just like to take a moment to commend you on your courage, because as I was reading the book, you know, I'm thinking, I became so curious about what else was going on in your life, in your personal life, because to go from corporate and from not really being interested in the spiritual realm or studying it that much to just doing the deep dive that you did and going full in, and then receiving those lessons and that guidance just in real time immediately, and being able to adjust and adapt accordingly in real time, as opposed to shutting down or saying, you know what, I'm going to close the door and go back to my safe haven. It took so much courage for you to do that. And I'd like to ask you, what was the driving force behind that was propelling you at that time when you were in that really uncomfortable period to stick with it?
I think it was two things. One is we all have inspirations. My inspiration was my mother. My mother. When my mother passed away, and she passed away when I was 30 years old, and she had seen my first son and didn't see my second. My father had passed away 8 years earlier prior to that. But we had like 350 people, 400 people show up at her funeral. And I'm like, what is this? You know? And every one of them had a story to tell about how she made their lives better. one little simple thing like needing change on the bus, and then Nurse Harris basically said, "Here, take this, and do you have enough to eat?" Or, you know, because she was a nurse, she had saved lives. Because she did daycare center nursing during the day, daytime hours. You know, taking care of the children, and your mom took care of my children, or she brought food at Thanksgiving, and we were 7 in one room, you know, sleeping on the floor, and she helped me find housing. I mean, all kinds of these stories, and I was like, wow, if I could just be a third of that, you know, an eighth of that kind of a person, life would be worth living. Like I could do it. I would do it if I could just be an eighth of that kind of a person. I wanted to be remembered like this. But the other driving force is that not knowing my traditions, being an African American woman living and growing up in the United States, and knowing that slavery had separated all of my traditions and everything, and this longing in my heart. And I knew that I had a percentage of Native American on my father's side, Cherokee, matter of fact. And just my parents were gone, and I wanted to learn, and I wanted to expand my view, because this couldn't be all of life. I needed help to expand that view. And I was just like, this can't be it. This isn't it. There's got to be more than this. And praying and wishing for that person to come into my life, and that teacher being Grandmother Isabel, the first one of a series of like 15 or 20 people that came in and out of my life, each teaching me in their realm. Grandmother Shirley, Grandfather Lynch Archuleta. I mean, there's a plethora of people who came in my life, each showing me a lesson, each teaching me and sharing with me that, yeah, there is much more to life than what you're viewing, and how limited my view was. So that was it. That was it.
I am able to communicate that all are significant as we as souls express ourselves. I listen with compassion, I hear with my soul, and I learn with all my heart. I expand my understanding, choosing to forgive in every dimension, freeing my soul at every level. It's beautiful and extremely ambitious. It's possible that we could free our soul, we could forgive in every dimension. We could do that, just it's possible.
I think that's what forgiveness is all about. When we break that word apart, we understand that when we throw anything into the mirror of life, it's coming back to teach us that lesson. And we have, again, that choice to learn the lesson or not. But forgiveness is the understanding that we can give forth of ourselves, of our gifts, of our talents. But when we do that, we are really freeing ourselves from whatever we are tethered to that keeps us from that. And so forgiveness is a big step in the art of transformation, and forgiveness is huge in understanding our freedom, whether that freedom is a personal freedom or a collective freedom. Very possible.
Thank you. Just Jennifer.
Oh, yes. Well, I believe anything is possible. And the component of forgiveness is so important. It's especially when we're judging, and especially when we are desiring to punish someone else, perhaps for hurting us or hurting someone we love. It becomes really, I think why people struggle with forgiveness is that they think, oh, I'm letting that person off the hook. And what I have found when I'm able to step into truly forgiving someone is I'm letting myself off the hook. I'm liberating myself, because as long as we're holding a grudge against someone, we're tied to them, we're attached to the event, to the emotions of holding that grudge, of the anger, the sadness, what have you. And so when you forgive and when you can step into that, you free yourself from the event and from the person. And especially when you've been harmed by someone, it's important to free yourself, because I view it as, why let them win? They've already hurt you once. To hold on to that and use that as an excuse to keep yourself down for the rest of your life only hurts you. It's not hurting them.
Beautiful. This all you are saying is leading us to the chapter of serpentine stuff, isn't it, Enolia? No? One of the most powerful support tools we have is being present. We have comment or judgment. How do you support others? How would you like support to be given to you? And this is also about forgiveness. You cannot support if you do not forgive others or yourself. So how would you like to support being supported? How do you support others? How do you do it, Enolia?
So for me, forgiveness is like the lack of forgiveness is like a veil. And in order to lift the veil, you need to forgive. Whether that veil is self-reflecting on self, whether that veil is looking at others, whether that veil is how you look at life. So in other words, if trauma is what I need to forgive and I choose not to forgive it, then I'm going to look through the veil of trauma my whole life. And I'm going to shape all my decisions based on that trauma. And I'm going to live and walk the path of life based on that trauma. I don't want to live my life like that. That's why what Chaz said, what Jennifer said, what you said, is forgiveness is truly freedom. Freedom for self, freedom to live, freedom to engage others. And I like to look at words. Love is a multidimensional word. In other words, there are many, many levels by which you can love, right? We can love with all our heart. We can love with all our soul. We can love, in this life. We can love what we did in the past. We can love what's coming in the future. We can love. There's many levels by which we love. And because I'm a medicine woman and I'm a shaman and a grandmother, we can love in timelessness. We can set that intention in timelessness and expand that love through the vibration and the sacred geometries and the light codes of which we are. So the second most powerful word to me is forgiveness. And with the intention behind that, and we can look at the multi-dimensional ways by which we forgive by just basically saying, I forgive all those who came before me, all those who will come after me, and I forgive myself in the midst of this. It is a truly multidimensional world, and it has impact. And we don't have to understand or rationalize or see the impact it gives. When we choose to forgive here in this human world or in timelessness, we just have to have the intention behind it. That's our responsibility of truly meaning it from our heart and our soul. It's just like when we do something here in this world, on this earth, with a group of people, and we have no idea the ripple effect it has within that crowd. We'll never know that ripple effect, but we know it had an impact. We don't always have to see what that effect is. We just have to know that that effect takes place. And so that's what I mean by that. And I think that any of us, if we understood the fact that we are vibratory beings, can understand that we can impact in every aspect of the being that we are.
You add a new element, Enolia, vibrational, no? Frequency, the music, the energy. What do you think about that, Chaz and Jennifer? Because it's quite controversial. Not all the people focus on what means support and forgiveness through that aspect. What do you think, Jennifer, Chaz? Do you believe on that?
Oh, yes. Well, it's funny that it's controversial to me because it's science as well. So for anyone who may struggle with the mystical or esoteric side of the teachings on vibration and frequency, you can go to science and find a lot of information about how everything is indeed vibration and frequency. And you can break it down to look at something like radio waves and sound and how they travel through the air, and that's how we get our radio to play, and it translates. So the sound that we hear of the human voice or of music has to elevate in frequency to then travel through the air, and then has to down regulate into the frequency so that the human ear can pick it up. And that happens every day. So I think that's a beautiful example of how everything is vibration. And when you start to understand that you are made of the same stuff as a radio or as a tree, and we're all made of these same atoms and elements that are just rearranged in different molecules, and that you are vibration, then you start to have a respect for sound, and you may start to look at, well, what are the vibrations that I'm exposing myself to? Because vibrations tend to align and match each other. And a lower vibration will pull down a higher vibration. It's easier for a lower vibration to fall down than it is for a higher vibration to pull a lower vibration up. And so you may want to look at, how am I exposing myself to lower vibrations? And perhaps if I expose myself to higher vibrations, will that have an effect on me and an impact? And Enolia describes that beautifully in her book, speaking about sound and the songs, the drumming from the heart, and how that, I think there was a moment in the book with tuning forks, and you were taken on this ride, and the beautiful visions that you experienced, and how that brought you deeper within yourself and elevated your frequency. And what a beautiful experience to have had and to share with us in your book. It was a gentle and lovely reminder for me to seek out more experiences like that.
Thank you, Jennifer. Indeed, it's a science. It's not just a way of seeing the way, but we are living in a historical momentum where science is not quite respected. So it would be good if we make an emphasis on that. Chas, what do you think about it?
Well, I just have to mention something about the tuning forks, because it was a big moment when I was reading the book. At that time, I was in Crestone, Colorado, in the mountains at a Buddhist temple. And I actually had tuning forks in my hand as I read that chapter. It was quite an amazing thing. And we had just come out of a drumming circle, and I literally had the tuning forks in my hand. I'm reading the book. Someone comes out of the temple, asks me about the book, and there we are, and we start doing exactly what she talked about. And my master teacher asks that controversial question all the time: if a tree falls in the woods, does anyone hear it? And my master teacher goes on to say, no, it certainly makes a noise, but if no one's there to receive the vibration, then no one's there to receive the vibration. It doesn't mean it stopped. It just means that I wasn't engaged in it. And that's, again, going back to that thing about support. How do we support ourselves and our community in the engagement, whether that's the engagement of what our soul is trying to retrieve and understand, or the engagement of supporting another who's going through something. So I just want to mention that. I love the whole thing about the tuning forks, because it was so real and real time and literal for me in that moment. And vibration is like that, whether we are conscious of it or not. I think about the lights in this room that are reflecting on me right now. I hear the air conditioner coming on, and there's vibration going on all through the room. And I'm engaged with it at some level, but am I conscious of that engagement? That's the part that I'm really looking at. Yeah.
Consciousness, forgiveness, and silence. You address that aspect, Enolia, in your book. And you say, do you embrace moments without words? It's easy to find silence awkward when with another individual or alone. Do you enjoy quiet moments? Is a silent moment unbearable? Yes, is that? What do you think about silence, about that quiet moment with ourselves? Because it's key. It's key. We have only like 6 or 7 minutes to end. So I think finishing talking about working in community with silence, with this dialogue with ourselves, I think is one of the best way to end this wonderful event. Enolia, silence.
So silence to me is so powerful, because is anything ever truly silent? What silence does is that silence brings you back to the noticing. Silence brings you back to the conscious awareness of what's taking place. A Dr. John Berlew who created tuning forks, human tuning. He put his self in a deprivation chamber because he wanted to prove how the human body reacted to silence. And to his surprise, what he found out is that when sitting in silence, he still heard the vibration, but what he was hearing was the vibration of his own body. He was finally conscious of it. So he discovered and he learned that every part of our body actually vibrates at a certain sound, a certain resonance. There is no true silence. So the silence that we can acknowledge is just to be self-aware and to sit still and to allow information to unveil itself and to just get the clutter out of our mind. And that silence is powerful because then that's when the clarity comes. Then that's when the understanding of what we need to do, how we need to do it can really prevail. But it's just a matter of sitting still. And I think that sitting still and silence need to go hand in hand. So.
Jennifer, silence.
Oh,
But
yes.
no, talk now, please. Talk now. What about silence?
I agree 100% with everything Enolia said. And it's so necessary to find that stillness and that silence. And it's something that we run from because we're afraid to discover what's going on inside of us, because maybe there's things that we are not desiring to look at. And so we distract ourselves with a lot of noise, with a lot of, social events, and we can distract ourselves with family, with anything, the internet, television. And when we decide to begin to turn that stuff off, and just, you can give yourself just 20 minutes a day of silence and of looking inward, and it will have a massive impact on your life if you do it consistently. And that the word that comes to me is primordial silence, that we need to tap into this silence of where we are nothing. The identity falls away. We are no one, no body, no thing, in no time. And when you step into that, then suddenly when you come back to yourself in your life, you have greater love, peace, and grace for yourself and for everyone else. And we all benefit.
Thank you. Chas?
Well, I'm going back to that Buddhist retreat I was on, mentioning in the mountains with the tuning fork. That particular spot that I was in is called Crestone, and it is rated the most silent place in all of North America. So as I was sitting in the most silent place of all of North America, I realized the difference between the silence and the stillness. And there is a subtle difference. Much like you can be alone in a crowd, we can also understand that silence doesn't really silence everything, because our mind, our monkey mind, is still going. And so there is a reflection there to be still, and to still our thoughts, to still our beliefs, to still that monkey mind. And then we enter the silence. I think of the silence as a wonderful meeting place. And it's a secret place of the Most High, if you will. And to be able to go to that meeting place and to find your soul's expression, to find whatever that wisdom is that is seeking to express itself to your soul, takes both the silence and the stillness. And again, we come back to that choice. We can choose to be silent, we can choose to be still, we can choose to be both. And that is an amazing power that we have, to be able to create a calm, still place, and then find the silence so that we can hear that inner voice, that inner wisdom, always reflecting back to us, and that still small voice that's always speaking.
Thank you, Chas. This is wonderful. And finding silence in a community. And this is G100, and this is global networking, and Enolia print with this wisdom what is our community. And I will read just what you have said, because you belong to G100 Global Networking before we appoint you. So I think this is the best description of our community. Being part of a community provides a means to help, assist, and teach each other and to share empowerment. This unique gift of share empowerment is unlike corporate teams where you are encouraged to compete individually, even within a group. We are not a corporate team. We are not businesses. We are a new way of doing businesses for ourselves. That is to find our inner peace, to share with others, and also to share silence. But it's not what we are going to do in this last 2 minutes. We are going to share words. So please tell us your final message, 1 minute each of you. And unfortunately, we need to go, but I hope we will find another opportunity to. Jennifer, please, your final message, 1 minute.
Oh, well, I'd simply like to take a moment to thank you, Mar, and thank you, Enolia, for writing a beautiful book. Thank you for allowing me to be here and to share and discuss your book and the ideas within it. It's truly an honor, and I've enjoyed every moment of it. Thank you.
Thank you. You're very welcome. Chas.
Well, I want to mention something that we've not talked about, and it was a powerful thing for me on page 77 of her wonderful book. She said, "Without women, there is no balance." And I love that. I believe that wholeheartedly. If you had seen my election ballot just last week, you would have known that I am choosing women over men in all areas of life, because the balance is possible. And when we talk about the support of our community, we're really looking at the understanding that we can incorporate the wisdom that is already here on this planet, that is already available to us and has been passed down from lineage to lineage, and looking at it as that grandmother role in our life, whether that is a grandmother as Enolia met on her retreat, our own biological grandmother, or the wisdom within that is always speaking. So I just want to say thank you for letting me be part of this and of reminding me of so many things, like the art of noticing, and that without women, there is no balance. And so I appreciate being with all of you women today and finding that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chas. Enolia.
I just want to say thank you. Life's been a journey, and I'm still on it. For those of you who don't know, I had the great pleasure of going to Northern Ontario to Serpent River, where Grandmother Isabel was, where she completed my initiation, and now I am a grandmother, elder, and matriarch. And so now I have the role that she played for me, that she is for me. And so what a journey that has been to now be in that position, to have that responsibility to share. So as you see me moving forward through life, and as you see me assisting and working with individuals and with community, know that I'm just stepping up to my responsibility and my contribution to the world. So this book is an extension of that contribution to the world. And I hope that those who choose to pick it up really allow it to embrace you as much as you embrace it. So I leave you with that. Thank you. And the book is available on Amazon.com now. And I appreciate all of you for taking the time to share and allow and to receive. Thank you again.
Thank you so much to all. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.